going to talk burnout. Has anyone experienced burnout, or they feel like they're almost there? Yeah, it's tough. And especially in this field, we get into this field because, why? What do we say all the time? We want to help people, right? But if you're not focusing back on yourself, if you're giving and giving and giving and pouring your cup out, eventually there isn't going to be anything left. So we want to talk some strategies to prevent burnout. It's great wanting to expand in your career. It's great wanting to advance. It's great wanting to become a supervisor, to get all these credentials. But at the end of the day, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to burn out, and then you're not going to be able to use all of those amazing credentials that you just worked so hard to get, okay? All right, so self-care strategies. Of course, self-care is important. It prevents burnout and maintains your mental health. I have some self-care practices on the screen. Mindfulness, meditation, exercise, healthy eating, right? Sounds great. Those are not my self-care practices, but that's what everybody puts on slide decks, right? And you're like, okay, sure. I'm not going to go. If you've never meditated before, you are not going to leave this room, leave this presentation, go home tonight and meditate. You're just not. And it's not going to work for you. You've got to find what works for you. I like reality TV. I like it. I watch an hour show at the end of the night to decompress. I like true crime podcasts. I listen to true crime podcasts in my car every single time I get in the car and drive. Those are my self-care. That's my self-care. I can't watch a scary movie, though. I can't see it. I can just listen to it. Think about what works for you. Meditation's great if you meditate. Yoga's great if you do yoga. But if you don't do those things, it goes in one ear and out the other. That's not going to help you. You got to think about what is going to be helpful for you. I was always envious of people that put earbuds in and take walks while they're in meetings. You see that now? I can't do that because I'm always, the note taker. I'm sharing my screen. It just doesn't work. And I can't, I live in DC. I would love to do a block walk while I'm in a meeting. That doesn't work for me. So I got a walking pad. And I have a walking pad under my desk. It gets used sometimes. But that's what I do. So think about what works for you. You got to schedule time for self-care activities. We have kids, we have families, we have jobs, we have a lot of things that pull us in different directions and take up our time. But we have to take time for ourselves. Set boundaries to ensure that work doesn't overtake personal time. It's okay to say to your supervisor that you're struggling. If you are working a 9 to 5 and you're not stopping at 5 o'clock, you're not stopping at 5:30, you're not stopping at 6, you're taking calls at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, I want you to stop. If that's you, I want you to stop. Okay? Yes, I see some hands. I'm that too. I am that too. I'll still take your calls, Dr. Jordan. Okay? But you have to set boundaries. That's really tough for me. I want to help people. I want to give. I don't want to say no. I have a really hard time saying no. I know that about myself. I haven't fully gotten there for self-care yet, but at least I know that about myself. Work-life balance. We have to define work-life balance, and that's going to look different for everybody. You want to balance between your professional responsibilities and your personal life. I have time management techniques here, but I want to switch out that word time. I want to switch out that word to task management techniques. You can't make time stop, okay? It's 11:52 now, it's going to be 11:53. There's nothing that we can do to stop time. There's nothing we can really do to manage that time. We're not in control of it, but what we are in control of are our tasks. You want to learn to prioritize what you need to do each day. I have used a planner. If that works for you, amazing. If you're like, that's just an extra thing to do, I don't get why people use it, don't use a planner. I don't like planners because I feel like it's a book of things I need to do that weighs me down. What I do every single day in the morning is I get a plain sheet of paper. And as things come up during the day, I write it down, like what I need to do. To-dos, maybe calls I have to make, maybe things I have to do today, and notes, anything like that. At the end of the day, the best part of my day is being able to do this. I'm done, right? And I throw it in the garbage, and I never look at it again. That's not only time management, that's task management, that's self-care. That works for me. I don't want to see it in a planner the next day. Now, if I didn't do some of this stuff, I'll take out a fresh sheet, and I'll start it, and then I'll look at it in the morning. Okay? This works for me. If this doesn't work for you, try to find solutions that work for you. The last thing I want to talk about is expanding your circle. A lot of times, especially in this field, we're protective over our clients and our peers, right? We know them the best. We want to work with them. If I take a day off, I don't know if I trust my coworker to do the same thing that I would have done, right? We have to expand our circle. It not only helps us, it helps our clients. Because if you are keeping all this information to yourself, if you're hoarding all of this information, right, and you're not giving it to others, you're not looking for resources, you're not saying, oh, this organization does that really well, I'm going to pull that into my circle, then guess what? You're limiting your client circle too, because your client only has you, and you are only one person. So by you expanding your circle, you're expanding your client circle. You're helping them. I know it's tough to let go. I'm saying this to myself too. It's tough to let go. But the more people you pull in, the more you expand your circle, the more you're going to expand that for your client too. And it's going to create better work-life balance. It's going to take some of those tasks off of your piece of paper. And you're going to have more time for self-care. And you'll be able to go on vacation and not feel guilty about it. I want to talk about drop in the bucket theory. I was at a conference, an amazing conference, hosted by She Recovers last year. She Recovers is an amazing organization. The CEO is actually here, and she's going to be on our trauma panel tomorrow, so that's going to be great. I was at this conference, and someone by the name of Dr. Stephanie Covington came on the stage. And I was like, all right, Stephanie, let's see what she's got to say, right? And she started talking about something called a drop in the bucket theory. Now, Dr. Covington, she's a clinician. She is a trauma expert. She does a lot of research in gender, and she's written a ton of books. You can look her up and, So I'm going to try to do this theory justice. I'm going to try to relate it to peers, and I'm going to tell you what I got out of it, okay? So Dr. Covington started talking about drop in the bucket theory. And initially I'm like, okay, drop in the bucket. That kind of sounds bad. That sounds negative. Like if you say something's a drop in the bucket, it's small, it's unimportant, minute, right? You don't think of it as something great. But what she did is she started talking about that in reference to clients, in reference to one-on-ones, in reference to even peers. I'm going to bring it into peers today. She talks about it in a therapeutic setting. You need to think of yourself as a drop in the bucket to your client. Depending on what sort of field you work in, you might work with a client for a day. You might work at a drop-in center, kind of do some emergency something with them, and then you never see them again. You might work in an inpatient treatment facility. You might see them for 28 days, 30 days, maybe 90 days, and then you never see them again. Maybe you work with them for a couple months, maybe a year. If you're lucky, you might work with them for longer, but that's not really that common in this field. So sometimes we wonder what happened to our clients or how they're doing, and that's tough for us. If you work with Susie in 2022, and you gave Susie some resources, and you shared your knowledge, and you advocated for her, you're a drop in her bucket. Susie didn't go into a treatment program. You gave her resources. She elected not to do it. Your coworker works with Susie maybe a year later. Your coworker's another drop in Susie's bucket. Coworker maybe says similar things, suggests some type of treatment. Susie goes. What do we all think as helpers in this field? What did I do wrong, right? Why didn't she do that when I was working with her last year? But if you take yourself out of it, if you neutralize it, and you're a drop in her bucket, and someone else is a drop in her bucket, move around too much, it takes that pressure off you. You did all that you could do. You did everything a peer's supposed to do. You advocated, you encouraged, you shared your knowledge, shared your story, and maybe at that time, Susie wasn't ready for it. Maybe you might see Susie in a couple years and be another drop in her bucket. And so I want you to think about this theory when you're working with your clients, with your peers, with your consumers, whatever your organization refers to. And think about this drop in a bucket theory, because it's really gonna help with your self-care. It's gonna help with your work-life balance. It's gonna help you not go home and think about that client and be like, oh, I can't believe I said this, or I should have done this, or, I got her into a treatment program and she opted out in 7 days, and why did she do that, and what did I do wrong? A lot of times, just in general, when we do great things, we relate them back to ourselves. And when we do poorly, we push it off and we're like, that was because of some outside force. That wasn't because of us. Right. But us in this helping profession, we take all of that negativity internally, right? Is it just me? So if we take that negativity internally, or if we take someone not being ready for treatment or someone not being ready for the advice that you're giving them, and you internalize it, that's going to be harmful to your self-care. It's going to be harmful to your work-life balance, and you're going to burn out. And you may love this field, you may be so passionate about it, but you're going to burn out. So if you think about the drop in the bucket theory, and like I said, I hope I did it justice, that's what I got out of it. And that's helped me. I put up some resources and tools on the screen. Some things that work for some people, some things that may not. Just like planners or anything like that. I'm type A, so I'm organized. I like these little apps and things to keep me organized along with my sheet of paper. Asana is a project management tool. It's free. Microsoft to-do lists are free if you have the Microsoft email. If your organization uses Outlook, uses Microsoft, you have to-do lists that'll track things for you, that'll tell you when things are due. Todoist is another one. Google Keep, Remember the Milk, all little to-do lists, all free apps that you can use and try out and see if it works for you. Self-care apps. Like I said, we don't all meditate, we don't all do yoga, we don't all do breathing, but if you do or if you want to try it, these are some free apps. Calm, Headspace, MoodFit. All right, so to finish up with some final thoughts, I want you to think about being creative. Everyone in here, I want you to think about how you can grow in your career, how you can grow as a peer. Is that being a supervisor? Is that starting a club at work? Is that doing something completely different? Think about what works for you. Speak up and advocate for yourself. You all are so good at advocating for your clients and your peers. You do it so well, but we are not good at advocating for ourselves. We have to think about that at the end of the day. Show leadership potential. Focus on continuous growth. Try a self-care technique. And most importantly, trust yourself. You are the expert of you. Okay. Thank you.